The United States is repeating the failures of past empires. Spain drained its wealth fighting unwinnable wars, collapsing under debt and economic stagnation. Britain, too, overstretched itself, clinging to imperial dominance as industrial rivals surpassed it. The US is following the same pattern. $8 trillion wasted on post-9/11 wars, no clear strategic gains, and rising instability at home and abroad. The dollar's dominance is fading. BRICS nations are bypassing US financial control, and sanctions have failed to cripple Russia. Washington's ability to dictate global trade is fading fast. At home, record defense spending grows year after year, while corporations suppress wages and watch silently as inequality surges towards catastrophic levels. Empires don't collapse overnight. They bleed out slowly, often lashing out as the end nears in a vain attempt to recapture past glory.
American Karens and Ken's solution to systemic oppression and structural racism, if they even acknowledge it, of course they're gonna pick a self-centering solution. No wonder that Christian nationalists, aka white supremacy and heteronormativity and Bible drag, are deciding what is the solution. Ban BIPOC and queer books. That's easier than doing the work of decolonizing the history books and telling children the truth. Reality collapse is too uncomfortable. And breaking generational curses in your bloodlines is really uncomfortable, deep shadow work. And we all know that people who are banning books don't want to be uncomfortable. That is the fear driving the entire fascist psychosis
Well, we ruined the planet, we dispossessed, imprisoned and slaughtered First Nations people, we enforced gender roles, we systemized rape, racism, misogyny, transphobia, homophobia, ableism, classism and unsustainable food industries. We allowed fossil fuel companies to operate our elected officials like ventriloquist dummies from hell, raping our planet for economic gain. We turned the prisons and military into big business. We sold our land, our resources, our water table and the port of Darwin to the Chinese, who we're now in a trade war with. We empowered the church to such a degree it's now just a tax haven for pedophiles, with the ability to manipulate government policy and mandate legislation on women's bodies without their consent. And we bred dogs to a superficial aesthetic level so they can no longer breathe. But pugs are so cute the way they suffocate when they walk. Their eyes are pointing in different directions because they're asking both owners to kill them.
America is a colonial settler apartheid empire that programs its sheeples to be incredibly emotionally immature, to lack any discernment, and to operate purely off of self-serving ego impulses. And this emotional immaturity, this naivete, this romantic delusion is what is fueling celebrity worship, this death cult. And it speaks of a deep, deep, deep inner lack of critical thinking, where you will blindly worship someone because they can sing and dance and they're hot and they're sexy and they're a good actor and they're rich and they're wealthy. But do you really know who that person is behind the scenes?
This is Lohan's mother.
Yes.
What? Her spirit bit me. The venom, the poison. Her venom hit me right here.
Is about to steal Ariana from Ethan Slater, which would be some like great justice. But it's a very gay culture. It's like everyone's a homosexual that's interviewing them. They're doing a lot of homosexual interviews. They're acting homosexual in the interviews.
White supremacy culture programs an emotionally immature populace to defend the oppressors, to identify with the oppressors. And that is the entire function of the celebrity mechanism. It is programming people to idolize, worship, and identify with the 1%, the vulture class, which they will never be a part of. So when you understand that this whole death cult of celebrity worship is just a mechanism that programs the oppressed to identify with their own oppressors, that is how you recognize that every single celebrity, regardless of their race, is a weapon of white supremacy dominant culture.
We're so connected. Super connected.
Do not let this distract you. You are being actively propagandized. Blocked, 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 blocked. These magazines are a form of media that were meant to feed your subconscious negative messages. Messages like,
You are officially an astronaut. Thank you so much. How do you feel? I feel super connected to love. So connected to love. I think this experience has shown me you never know how much love is inside of you.
I mean, the first major chapter in the book says, how do we define love? How can we know love in a culture where most of us don't have a sense of what it is?
Males are actually not all that important in the lives of a lot of insects. So people have this idea that nature dictates kind of a 1950s sitcom version of what males and females are like, so that males are always supposed to be dominant and aggressive and females are passive and coy. But that's just not the case. In the social insects, the bees and wasps and ants, the individuals that you see every day are always female. My students, for instance, call every animal they see a male, and when I tell them that the ferocious army ant soldiers with their giant jaws used to defend the colony are all always female, they seem to not quite believe me. What can we learn from this? What I think we've done is use males in any species as though they're the model system, the norm. But when we do that, we really miss out on a lot of what nature is like.
Stay where you are. Defend me. Kill him.
Is Mark Zuckerberg getting divorced?
What?
Well, why else would he say we need more masculinity in corporate America and take away all of Meta's content guardrails?
Why do you think?
Because he has a lawsuit with the FTC.
Fascism always is an attempt by the right to resolve a crisis of its own era, right? So in the 1930s, they were attempting to resolve, in Germany, the humiliations of the First World War, the impacts of the Great Depression, and to propose a unity in the face of that, for the in-group. But our moment is different, and one of the things that makes it different, if you think about fascism in the 1930s, this is before the atomic bomb, it's before they understood climate change, and we are in a moment where our elites, whether they admit it or not, do understand that our economic model is at war with life on Earth, right? What unites this kind of strange Frankenstein coalition that Trump represents, where he's bringing together these, the richest people in the world who have ever existed with, many working class people. So what binds the vision? They all have given up on this world. Like they all...
Did you know that the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the American Revolution against the British Empire? When you study historical Pluto transits in Aquarius, a common pattern that I observed was the development of religions, ideologies, and philosophies that inevitably become weaponized by patriarchy. The very same religion that was used to justify chattel slavery is now used to justify the for-profit prison industrial complex and criminalization of homeless, black, brown, and queer bodies. The walk-away message I feel that Pluto in Aquarius is invoking, considering the last time Pluto was in Aquarius was during the 18th century, time of the American Revolution, is that the period up until 2044 in the US empire could be a moral reckoning with the fact that the law and religion, Christianity, have always been weaponized tools to uphold white supremacy, to justify colonialism, and therefore needs racism in order to function. This is a karmic shadow test.
Karma's a bitch, she bites back. Better prepare, cause she won't hold back. Make your life a little game and play like a pawn. Checkmate.
There is a term in behavioral psychology called extinction burst. It is basically when a maladaptive behavior is being conditioned out. And so the person doubles down on the maladaptive behavior. founding fathers, the settlers, were Freemasons who practiced geomancy and astrology. When they signed the Declaration of Independence at 5:15 p.m. in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, it was on purpose. U.S. is a Cancer. Explains a lot. Not only is the U.S. a Cancer sun, but look at the 8th house here. There is a stellium of planets in the sign of Cancer. Venus, Jupiter, the sun. People ask me all the time, what does spirituality, astrology have anything to do with free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan? And I don't think there is anything more spiritual than to come into your purpose, to know why you're here, and to use your gifts and talents to advocate for the most vulnerable people on this planet.
During Pluto's last transit in Aquarius at the end of the 18th century was the discovery of the planet Uranus. And we only discovered Uranus because of mathematics. Therefore, this implies to us that Pluto as a planet, what it means is that there's this pattern of unveiling truths that are hidden in the shadows, or hidden knowledge that has always been there. It's just waiting to be rediscovered. Just look at electricity. At the end of the 18th century, experiments with electricity were really starting to become more popular as a science. But the ancients knew about electricity, and we have the Baghdad battery, for example. Therefore, when Pluto is transiting through these air signs, it seems that this triggers the intellectual mind. Discovery, innovation, and revolutionary thought, which is always initially resisted when studying these historical Pluto transits. That's the number one pattern, is that the new Pluto movement is always deflected.
Genocide in Vietnam, just like the genocide that's happening now in Palestine that our government is complicit in. I'm so upset, as so many people are, at the sheer terror that Israel is carrying out in Gaza. Whole families are being wiped out. And this is exactly what the U.S. government did in 1968 in Vietnam. They're direct parallels. You can't let powerful, evil forces intimidate you out of it. Then you're just allowing them to win and get away with horrible policies. I'm 77 years old. What I've seen is the government, for that matter, corporations, the military, the powerful forces that run our society, they only listen when there is mass popular protest.
words, stand up for Israel's right to defend itself, and I will always ensure Israel has the ability to defend itself.
We're living in a time of endless war. It's systemic to an oppressive system. So I don't think Vietnam was a mistake. I don't think the Israeli government killing civilians in Palestine is a mistake. I think it's intentional. The same hypocrisy we saw in 1968 and in the 1960s, lying to us about Vietnam, is happening now. President Biden, he's saying we have to have a ceasefire. The way a ceasefire could stop immediately is if our country stopped sending bombs and weapons to Israel. But they refuse to do that. So they're trying to look like peacemakers, but they're not. Partner in genocide. You're the problem.
Shoot me for wanting to dream. Shoot me for giving the kids something to aspire to. I'm bloody resigning. I'm so sick of it. Shove it up your ass, Margaret. I'm resigning, everyone. I'm out of here. That's it. I'm gone. There's my letter of resignation, and there's some flowers for my dead dog. Why don't you stick those up your fat ass? Fuck off, everyone. I'm gone.
The astrology is really interesting behind the pro-Palestinian student protests and crackdown of the fascist police state U.S. empire. I feel like, given Chani Nicholas's work, that this is a culmination of some heavy eclipse energy, and following the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction on the 21st of April alongst the Taurus Aries cusp. The levels of cognitive dissonance in the US empire have reached an all-time high. We now have legislators that are saying we need to bring in the National Guard to arrest and suppress student-led pro-Palestinian protests as an act of fighting anti-Semitism. There were so many Jewish students who have been arrested. Christian Zionists and genocidal simps are trying to gaslight you to believe that being pro-Palestinian is genocidal against Jewish people, when there are so many Jewish people who are screaming to the rooftops that Zionism does not represent them. In America, the KKK is allowed to protest openly. So the students are genocidal? Yeah, gaslight.
Karma's a bitch, she bites back. Better prepare, cause she won't hold back. Make your life a little game and play like a pawn. Checkmate.
In Hellenistic Western astrology on May 2nd, 2024, Pluto, the planet of rebirth, transformation, and the underworld, went retrograde from Aquarius back into Capricorn, where it will remain until October 11th, 2024. This Pluto retrograde transit via Capricorn can be symbolized by the Devil, Major Arcana, the Queen of Pentacles, Minor Arcana, and the Death, Major Arcana in the Tarot. Pluto's retrograde in Capricorn transit is inviting you to not look away from the collective shadow. It's inviting you into all of the decolonization, shadow work. That is what I am sensing is behind this greater celebrity blockout trend that was triggered by the new moon in the Aries Taurus cusp. The Devil and the Death Major Arcanas together, for me personally, is an invitation to do the deep shadow work. This is a shadow test for the collective coven. It's inviting you to witness how ugly patriarchy is, how corrupt neocolonialism is, how sick and cancerous capitalism is. It's inviting you to sit with how you're complicit in these systemic systems of oppression. It's reflecting to you your own shadow in all the ways that we participate and uphold these systems of oppression. This is the shadow work. First step, awareness. That was Pluto dipping into Aquarius, and then retrograde to Pluto and Capricorn feels like, to me, well, let's do the work now. Let's do the nitty gritty shadow work. I feel it's very Pluto and Aquarius to remember that we are in the post-internet age when we have public receipts of every single major politician, celebrity, and influencer who has either been silent, complicit, or actively promoting the colonial apartheid genocidal regime of Israel and its ally, the US empire. These celebrities are the weapons of distraction, and I feel that this Pluto and Aquarius transit is reminding us that these stanky celebrities are going to age like spoiled milk. There's no way, realistically, that any of these people can claim that they didn't know. What's the deeper meta psychology beneath the internet? Being a tangible public record, a meta mirror of the collective unconscious that is simultaneously tangible yet intangible because it can disappear if the grid goes out. Pluto in Aquarius is invoking the deepest levels of shadow work surrounding our collective evolution with technology, the shadow aspects of censorship, misinformation, and racist algorithms. Words cannot describe how much joy I have cultivated blocking vapid sociopathic narcissists we call celebrities all day during the Great Blockout 2024. It feels like a huge pivot to finally reclaim our collective power and realize that these celebrities that we put on pedestals that we worship only have money because our attention is currency in the algorithm. I find it interesting that in the metaverse, the algo, after I blocked certain celebrities, was then sponsoring ads for their various businesses. That's sus. When you tell the algorithm, no, I don't want to see any of the Kardashians. The cult of celebrity is dead. It's done. It is over. She has seen her final Eras tour. And I personally just think a little mantra we can all be chanting is, I'm DON to the E with the cult of celebrity. Ain't getting no more energy from me because our energy is their currency. Our attention in the algorithm fuels these systemic systems of oppression because the algorithm now is inseparable from systemic systems of oppression. It has been weaponized by the vulture class.
Here are a list of all of the movies the Pentagon oversaw and contracted with Hollywood on. For those who don't know, the Pentagon has a Department of Defense Entertainment Media Office. From their website, the DoD Entertainment Media Office supports studios, production companies, producers, directors, etc. in the production of both scripted and unscripted films. According to the documentary Theaters of War, the US DoD does not just subtly influence Hollywood's depiction of US wars to present them in a more favorable light. The Pentagon actively demands script oversight and dictates storylines. Practice, it has been waging a full-spectrum propaganda war on Western audiences. The Pentagon's objections usually relate to any suggestion of military incompetence or war crimes. Back in 2013, Dr. Stephen Underhill of Marshall University filed with the Freedom for Information Act to obtain all of the movies that the Pentagon has supervised on. Some of them were surprising. I'm going to list them page by page. Feel free to take screenshots.
not going to drop it, you fool. I'm going to drink it. And once I turn back into my beautiful self, I'm going to kill you.
She says, just like Marie Antoinette, building a remedy, the first job of Kennedy, at any time, whatever invitation you can.
The last time Pluto was in Aquarius was in the late 1700s while the French Revolution was happening. So what happens at the Met Gala, just to bring it all back, is that Haley Bailey, I don't even know who this person is, but now I know their name, is dressed as Marie Antoinette, talk about French Revolution, and says, let them eat cake, and becomes the Uranus, just fuck the whole thing up, absolutely turn everything on its head, break the whole thing open. The masses outside the Garden of Time, the French Revolution, the moment now, are just like, no. And start this movement to block celebrities. How are those for some strange parallels?
This movement to block celebrities, isn't it called the digitine?
So it's called the digitine.
Sound choice truly had no deeper meaning. I never would have chosen a sound on purpose to highlight wealth disparity or elitism. I never even thought it would be taken in that way because I wasn't elite enough to even be invited to the Met Gala because I'm not elite. I'm a normal person.
Instead of an empty apology, you write a check. Oh, instead of an empty apology, you write a check. You fucked up and you want to say sorry, then go ahead and show us the money. Oh, instead of an empty apology, you write a check. Instead of claiming ignorance, read a book. Oh, instead of claiming ignorance, read a book. You're a whole ass adult and the info is there. Stop playing in our faces and just say you don't care. Or, if you do, instead of claiming ignorance,
This is a French colony, and the reason why people have risen up, you might be hearing there's riots, right? People are burning buildings, burning cars. Well, the reason this is taking place, the reason people are rising up, and the reason they're now fighting with these riot cops and police, is because France passed a new law that will allow French people who live in New Caledonia for, I think, 10 years or something like that, people who haven't been there, settlers, we'll put it like that, to allow them to vote in the elections in New Caledonia. Now, this is very controversial because about 40% of people who live in New Caledonia are indigenous people. Many of those people want to have independence from France. Why don't they just let them have independence, right? Well, that's an important factor. New Caledonia has 11% of the world's nickel reserves. Also, you know, there's cobalt there, there's iron there, there's magnesium there, there's chromium there.
Trash. 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 Thinks she's class, but still trash. 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 Trashy Tuesday. Trashy Thursday. Trash are us. Trash. 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 Smells like trash. 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 Super trash. More trash. 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 Literally. Trash.
assume that you've heard that Israel is the West's greatest strategic ally in the Middle East, that it's a pillar of democracy, a stabilizing agent in the powder keg that is West Asia, that they protect our interests in an intersectional region that connects 3 continents and secures our energy, which is so crucial for our domestic and military viability. Well, we just pulled some memos from the National Archives written by the Joint Chiefs of Staff to then President Truman in October 1947, recommending strongly against the partitioning of Palestine. They're interesting historical artifacts, for they predict 77 years ago the political catastrophe that is the Israel-Hamas war. With regards to the partitioning of Palestine, quote, the Joint Chiefs of Staff desire, in the attached memorandum, to apprise the Secretary of Defense with their views regarding the grave military implications of this problem and its relationship to the security of the United States. Unquote. As you know, generations of propaganda have gone into reinforcing this idea of natural allyship between the United States and Israel that resists critical thinking.
Incorporated in 1963. For 10 years prior to that, it was known as the American Zionist Committee for Public Affairs. AIPAC calls itself America's pro-Israel lobby, and according to its website, it has over 3 million members across the country and working to, quote, expand and strengthen the U.S.-Israel relationship. You may know AIPAC as being one of the biggest and most recognizable donors to many of the members of Congress in your state. But contributing to campaigns is a relatively new function of the organization. Before 2021, AIPAC did not endorse candidates nor give political contributions. Its focus was on lobbying elected officials, not actually electing officials. But in a dramatic shift in policy, AIPAC began directly funding candidates and spending big on races in 2021. AIPAC Political Action Committee, AIPAC-PAC, filed something called a Statement of Organization with the FEC just in time for the 2022 election cycle.
Jackson used to say, fascism is here. You know, people gave us the scare with Biden's election, like we need to build an anti-fascist, anti-Trump coalition, and Biden won. Genocide, Joe won. Is he any better? And he's not. And neither is anyone in the Democratic Party, because again, it's about the project. It's about defending the U.S. empire and defending capitalism. And so when you're talking about Trump is a result. He's a product of capitalism. He's a product of what the Democratic Party and the Republican Party have done or have not done in relationship to its citizenship. And so when people are like, you know, anything that we do against Joe Biden or anything that we do against the Democratic Party, they don't have an understanding of politics and they don't have an understanding of U.S. empire and capitalism.
Historically, the middle class has been instrumental in the rise of fascism around the world, and we're seeing a lot of the same patterns today as we did in the 1930s. From 1929 to 1939, the world went through the Great Depression. Fascists in Germany and Italy were able to weaponize the economic anxiety of the middle class and offer a twisted nationalistic alternative to gain power. Benito Mussolini, founder of the National Fascist Party in Italy, noted in the 1930s that the middle classes were the most fascistized part of Italian society, or at least the part that was most heavily influenced by the regime's propaganda. The various local division leaders of the National Fascist Party were made up of lawyers, office workers, doctors, and writers, all the lower and middle white-collar and professional classes. A similar process took place in Germany with the rise of Hitler and the Nazi Party. Support for the Nazi Party was particularly strong among rural middle-class farmers, shopkeepers, and artisans. That group gave them the support that the party needed to come to power in 1932 with over 50% of the popular vote. And the liberal political parties of Germany at the time, like the German Democrats and the People's Party, ultimately failed. Kamala Harris proudly proclaiming that the US will have the most lethal military in the world is the exact nightmare scenario that Eisenhower warned us about 60 years ago. And this is an amazing and rare example of a leader perfectly calling out everything that we're seeing today. So for some background, prior to World War II, America didn't have a military-industrial complex, at least nothing like what we have today. But that was the bloodiest conflict in all of human history, with 90 million people being killed by the end of it. And the demand for weapons and ammunition was so great that it required the creation of a military industry on a scale that had never been seen before. Dwight D. Eisenhower was was one of the top generals during World War II, and he witnessed the birth of this military industry firsthand. Eisenhower became president in 1953 at the height of the Cold War with the Soviet Union, and because of the perceived threat of communism, he helped grow the military-industrial complex even more in order to fight an arms race against the Soviet Union. But by the end of his presidency, he's seen the writing on the wall, and he warns about it directly in his farewell address in 1961. In a relatively short 10-minute speech, he acknowledges that at the time it was necessary for America to build up an arms industry, but he notes how the influence of the military is felt in every single facet of
There's no cult leader in the world that doesn't have a touch of the communal narcissism. That's built into it.
I will never forgive them.
Really?
Never.
Even if you never speak to them again?
I don't speak to them again. I will never forgive them. What they did to me, because what it changed my view on myself. I spent years crawling out from under that rubble.
We thought we liked you, thought we knew you were for us, but you're for you. How sad now we must grieve you. How loud your silence. It's not just your fault, we are partially the ones to blame. Because you sold a lot, but we bought it, trying to play the game. But it was never really a fair game now, was it? Kind of like when you give a kid a controller you know don't work. But now it's time to grow up and we have to block you down. It's such a hard thing, let go of you. But we must, for Congo, you know, take back our power. I'm glad the illusion's through. If you use your power, we just might start fucking with you again. Celebrities, please remember that the people made you, bitch. Until then, free Congo, free Sudan, free Palestine, free Haiti, and free Armenia. Let's play with your mama, never us. You are blacked.
The mechanism of celebrity culture in a fascist state is to be a unofficial propaganda machine. Fame is like the plastic dangling carrot in capitalism for the oppressed classes who will never in their lifetime become a part of the vulture class, the seeming 1%. They may not even become, quote, famous, unquote, which means they're just at the status of a purchased puppet, the weapons of distraction, who ultimately are beneath the overlords, the vulture class, the oppressors. And people don't understand the power dynamics behind the scene. In the context of the great celebrity blockout of 2024, post Hunger Games Met Gala, image is everything. And in the cult of celebrity, you are spending $70,000 to go to the Met Gala 8 months into a live streamed Holocaust. Then you also pay $300,000 for a table at the Met Gala. You are so tone deaf and out of touch and self-absorbed that you don't understand with emotional maturity and spiritual insight the gravity of that moment when you show up on the red carpet and the cameras are flashing and you didn't use that moment to make a statement, to let the world know where you stand, to weaponize your privilege for the collective liberation of the people who lifted you up in the first place. Celebrities in ivory towers certainly could pool their resources together and
just like Marie Antoinette, building a remedy for Khrushchev and Kennedy, and at a time of invitation you can't take cake, she says, just like Marie Antoinette, building a remedy
bad bitches that still eating that McDonald's and Starbucks. Fuck you. Free my bitches in Gaza. Period. And that's on my soul. On my soul. Fuck.
Yeah, don't play with me. Play with me. Play with me.
In my humble opinion, the great celebrity blockout of 2024 that was triggered by the new moon on May 8th in the Aries-Taurus cusp is a part of this greater, more subtle, more concentrated Pluto and Capricorn retrograde energy. Because when a planet is retrograde, energetically, that may mean its energy is magnified. Therefore, what I am intuitively sensing with these combinations of different archetypes is that up until the end of 2024, October 11th, this may be a time when you will very clearly be able to discern a person's shadow qualities, their shadow self.
You know, one of the things that you write so beautifully, and your stuff is so fun to read, but you write about Trump. Quote, the way that you build a truly vicious nationalist movement is to wed a relatively small core of belligerent idiots to a much larger group of opportunists and spineless fellow travelers whose primary function is to turn a blind eye to things. We may not have that many outright Nazis in America, but we have plenty of cowards and bootlickers, and once those fleshy dominoes start tumbling into the Trump camp, the game is up. When you talk about fleshy dominoes, Chris Christie comes to mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Even the fact that the system has a lot of stupidity in it, I think, has a function. You know, it means that people are filtered out for obedience. If you can guarantee lots of stupidity in the educational system, you know, like stupid assignments and things like that, you know that the only people who will make it through are people like me and like most of you, I guess, who are willing to do it no matter how stupid it is, because we want to go to the next step, you know. So you may know that this assignment is idiotic and the guy up there couldn't think his way out of a paper bag, but you'll do it anyway because that's the way you get to the next class, and you want to make it, and so on and so forth. Well, there are people who don't do that, you know. There are people who say, I'm not going to do it, it's too ridiculous, you know. Those people are called behavioral problems. And all of this is a technique for selection for obedience.
Let me explain how this works. Brands profit from our consumer behavior, and ultimately, we consumers control the market. For instance, when McDonald's supported the Israeli military with free food and people started boycotting the restaurant, resulting in the closure of 225 locations, we made a statement. The same has happened with Starbucks, Coca-Cola, Domino's Pizza, and many more. What does this have to do with the celebrities we are now blocking? These celebrities have partnerships and brands through which they make money, and taking a political stance can bankrupt an entire company. Especially, it is frowned upon to oppose Israel, and one can quickly lose their job. That's why PR teams always advise celebrities not to take a stand. However, we refuse to stand by and watch a genocide unfold before our eyes. The blockout movement will compel stars to speak out against the killing of innocent people.
In 2024, Pluto entered Aquarius, where it will remain until 2044. And this is a massive astrological transit. And I've observed that a lot of astrologers are talking about technology, the shadow side of technology, algorithms. And what's interesting when you study these historical Pluto transits, during Pluto's transit in Aquarius at the end of the 8th century was the time of the Islamic Golden Age in Baghdad. And this gifted us so many advancements in mathematics, the number 0, astronomy, astrology, and the very word algorithm itself. This is very relevant for modern times, considering the uptick in Islamophobia, censorship of pro-Palestinian content on Meta, and the very fact that the algorithm itself is now the oppressor. Considering the last Pluto in Aquarius transit was during the American Revolution, the US Empire's assault on Iraq is very relevant, considering so many archaeological artifacts and ancient sites were destroyed. Everything is interconnected. Fight Islamophobia. Free Palestine. The last time Pluto was in Aquarius at the end of the 18th century was a time of the Haitian Revolution, which so far has been the only successful slave rebellion against colonial European hegemony. Now look at what everything that's going on in Haiti as the US Empire and other imperial forces are seeking to continue to destabilize Haiti, sell it weapons, and maintain chaos. In the 18th century, during the last Pluto and Aquarius transit, was the seeding of the abolition movement. And I feel, therefore, heading into 2044, Pluto in Aquarius is a invitation to do the collective shadow work of recognizing that the only way that our species has a shot at surviving the climate crisis is to abolish the current systems of oppression that created this crisis in the first place. Pluto in Aquarius is perhaps unveiling the mass psychosis that fascism intends to keep people enslaved in. Slavery, war, and colonialism still fuel capitalism, and that is why Palestine is so important as a decolonization land back movement.
You know what's crazy to me?
What's crazy to you?
Humans have so much trust in their government.
Oh my God.
It's actually like kind of sad.
It's kind of pathetic.
It is, you know, because like over so many years and decades of time, the government just continues to lie.
Just keep lying.
And humans are like, ooh.
You can quote the movie Matrix, the moment where you decide to take the pill to continue to live in the oblivion, not to make sense of the horror that is so widespread around us. Otherwise, you take the pill.
Best way to end something is to starve it. No reaction, just don't feed it. That's where the true power lies. Where attention goes, energy flows. And when energetic patterns are broken, new worlds emerge.
Beyond the Earth, at the outer fringe of life's temperature zone, is Uranus.
propaganda is failing all around the world, but somehow still works in the United States. Why everyone globally understands what's happening in Gaza and who the criminals are, but in the United States, people can deny the most obvious and the most heinous crimes against humanity.
Anti-black racism, ableism, and queerphobia are the three universal forms of bigotry which can be observed everywhere on planet Earth. Why is this? Eugenics. When you study the conveniently forgotten history of eugenics, the connections become very clear. Ableism and heteronormativity were weaponized by eugenics to justify and uphold white supremacy culture. Eugenics did not just seek to eradicate BIPOC groups. Eugenics also actively sought to eliminate neurodivergent, disabled, queer, trans, intersex, Slav, Jews, poor whites, and unwed single mothers.
So what is Two-Spirit? It's an umbrella term that bridges indigenous and Western understandings of gender and sexuality. The term was intentionally introduced by Native people with the goal of finding common ground and helping educate about traditional teachings in a
better prepare, cause she won't hold back. Make your life a little game and play like a pawn. Checkmate.
White people treat politics like Bloods and Crips, because look at what politics makes white people do. They gangbanging over legislation, fighting over flags, stacking their gang signs, repping the set everywhere.
And how you're going to communicate to the vast, heedless, unthinking, cruel white majority.
But what I want to say today, particularly about policing in Atlanta, because I happened to be on the campus of Emory University when APD showed up with GSP and brutalized peaceful protesters. That response to the Emory encampment, despite what they are telling you on the news and on mainstream media, was totally unwarranted. I witnessed with my own two eyes, y'all. And I know y'all are always like, oh, Reverend Kiana, you're always talking about Palestine and Cop City and blah, 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 blah. I'm going to tell you the connection, because the techniques that we saw at Emory are the ones that our police officers learned through GILE, the Georgia International Law Enforcement Exchange, where they trained with those IOF officers. I saw the protesting encampment being kettled. That is an Israeli technique, and if people don't know, the Israelis have the worst record on human rights.
This woman is known as the first female airplane hijacker in history. Of course, she's none other than the Palestinian revolutionary icon Layla Khalid of the Communist Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine. In 1969, Layla Khalid led the PFLP
exterminate us.
This cure is voluntary. Nobody's talking about extermination.
No one ever talks about it. They just do it. And you go on with your lives, ignoring the signs all around you. And then one day, when the air is still and the night has fallen, they come for you.
Excuse me.
It's only then you realize while you're talking about organizing and committees, the extermination has already begun. Make no mistake, my brothers. They will draw first blood. They will force their cure upon us. The only question is, will you join my brotherhood and fight? Or wait for the inevitable genocide?
God, the Fox News must be so loud in there.
Transgender immigrants are dropping sexy M&Ms from Chinese balloons.
This is worth being disowned by my family.
Sex with a porn star. How many billions of dollars do you owe in civil penalties for molesting a woman in public, for doing a whole range of things, of having sex with a porn star on the night while your wife was pregnant? I mean,
my people, are our enemies. And you must understand that. They are our enemies. They took our land. They imprisoned our queen. They banned our language.
Flag is drinks with our blood, because you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery.
pattern of harassment is going on against the Black Panther Party across the country. On Friday, the Watts office of the Black Panther Party was bombed and demolished. Last week, the Des Moines office was bombed. They can't stop anything we're doing as a
Not to be a doomsday apocalyptic prophetess, but the separate states of America, the US empire, is in the process of its death. These type of empires, if you study history, they on average last around 300 years. And given the fact that the United States was founded on racism, white supremacy, and the ethnic cleansing of indigenous people, the enslavement of black people, which then transformed the prison industrial complex and eugenics, forced sterilization of not just BIPOC, but also disabled, neurodivergent, queer people, intersex people, poor white trash, Eastern Europeans, veterans. No one was immune from white supremacy in America.
entrega toda, tan solo por amor, y al robarte el alma alegra tu corazón, gitana que con su magia y encantos de mujer siempre me tendrá a sus pies. Loco y preso en la cárcel divina, en la cárcel divina de tu corazón. ¡Ole, gitana! Y es la que se entrega tan solo por amor, y al robarte el alma alegra tu corazón, gitana que con su magia y encantos de mujer siempre me tendrá a sus pies. Loco y preso en la cárcel divina, en la cárcel divina de tu corazón, gitana. Gitana que con su magia me enamora el corazón. Y esos ojitos negros que cuando me miran llenan mi alma de pasión. Gitana que con su magia me enamora el corazón. Tienes la gracia divina, bella creación de Dios. Gitana que con su magia me enamora el corazón. Por eso vivo feliz en la cárcel de tu amor. Olé. No me dejes de querer, gitana, que me muero sin ti. Gitana que con su magia me enamora el corazón. Tu carisma que es de Venus, diosa linda del amor. Gitana que con su magia me enamora el corazón. Me enloquece, me estremece y me hace sentir feliz. Sí. Oh, divina hermosa que me hace soñar. Bello cuerpo de guitarra. Ole tu gracia divina. Ojos que cuando miran me hacen soñar. A tu lado yo estaré hasta el final. Nunca dejes de quererme, gitana.
मदिरा पी के माँ पे झपटा, पास सिंह के आके रपटा.
Have a right to violence. All oppressed people have a right to violence. And I want to tell you something. It's like the right to pee. You got to have the right place. You got to have the right time. You got to have the appropriate situation. And I'm absolutely convinced that this is it.
2024 through 2044 Pluto transits Aquarius. And to make a long astrological transit short and sweet, my astrological forecast for this 20-year period is I can think of no better time to be a single, feral, childless, psychotic cat lady than Pluto in Aquarius.
stars, the rings of Saturn, the red canals of Mars, the raging flame of Mercury, the ever-changing atmosphere of Venus, Jupiter and its titanic moons, the frozen face of Pluto and Neptune, the majestic blue of Earth, and the clouds of toxic gas around Uranus.